Have you ever wondered if there's actually a way to make a man fall deeply in love with you? Isn't it wild how some women are able to effortlessly capture a man's heart without even trying? Or are they? Well, what if I told you there's a real secret formula of how to make a man fall in love that some women are using in secret? But if you learn what that formula is, then couldn't you make men just as obsessed with you? Which is why in today's video, I'll be sharing with you a complete step-by-step guide that will cover the entire formula that you'll use to make a man fall in love with you. And finally, you'll be the woman who has men worshiping you, crawling on glass for you, paying for your farts in a jar while other women stare at you and wonder what it is about you that makes the men go so crazy. Let's get started. Point number one is about the approach. Now, in this first section, I want you to understand what we're trying to accomplish here, which is called pre-selection. The purpose of pre-selection is to understand that without the right circumstances and environment for the guy that you're trying to cast this spell on, that you're trying to work your magic on, he has to be in a certain place mentally, spiritually, emotionally for all of this to work. So we're going to be doing a couple of things to ensure that this man is primed and ready for all of your little strategies to work on him properly. Approach is one of those. Let's imagine you're at a bar or a club, okay? A lot of you are used to going to bars and clubs, so I want to make it simple for you. You see the guy that you like, that you're thinking to yourself, I want to use Tomisin strategies on this guy. He is the one that I want this to work on. Now, once you've identified that this is the guy you want to target in this scenario, you want to make sure that he's primed. You want to put yourself in a position at this bar or this club now where in this crowd of people, there will be abundance of people there at this place that you're at. Hopefully, it's a nice place. And as you're there, you've got to make sure that he can actually spot you in order to approach you. One of the easiest mistakes to make is when you're in a crowd of people or when you're at a social event, the guy that walks in that you like, you almost want to hide from because you don't want him to see you or notice you because you're like, oh my God, that's the actual guy I like. If he sees me or notices me, that's going to make me really shy and really insecure. But that's a mistake. See, if that guy is primed and ready to be the man that falls in love with you, we can't really get him to fall in love with you if he doesn't notice you. We've got to put you in the spotlight. What does putting you in the spotlight really look like? Putting you in the spotlight looks like putting you in a position where he can actually make eye contact with you. He can actually admire you. He can actually say to himself, that girl's really attractive. She looks like she's having a good time. She's smiling. She's having fun with her friends. I want to approach her. So ironically, even though this point is about the approach, we're not actually talking about his approach to you. We're talking about setting up the right environment for him to eventually approach you. Remember, we need him to be primed here, in the right mental space, in the right level of interest for all of this to work properly. So you're setting yourself up for success by putting yourself in what we call his line of sight. Now, if you're someone on the shorter side, let me give you some advice here. You want to put yourself in a place where you're either well lit, so that more spotlight can be on you, so to speak, right? Or you want to put yourself in a position where even despite the fact that you're a little bit short, there's enough clear space that he could still catch your eye, okay? Something simple for all of you to be thinking about. If you can't see his eyes from where you are, whether you're short, tall, or medium height, then there's a good chance you're not in the right place for him to be able to approach you. You're going to have to adjust where you and your friends are. You're going to have to adjust where you're hanging out, or maybe your dance spot, whatever the case may be, in order for you to put yourself in his line of sight. You have to understand, this is the first step to getting what you want, which is this man falling in love with you. We need to set this up properly. We're not going to set it up properly if he doesn't approach you. Because I promise you, any version of you guys meeting each other or getting to know each other that doesn't start with him approaching you will be the wrong strategy for everything that we're trying to do here, okay? Now, underneath the approach, we have some do's and we have some don'ts, okay? Let's start off with putting yourself in a well-lit area. Somewhere that's not too dark that will allow him to easily miss you. We want him to be able to admire you. We want him to be able, even if you're in a club or a bar, to be able to see some of your physical features, some of your facial features, that he can make out the fact that you're an attractive woman. It makes no sense to put yourself in a corner where it's dark, It's wet, it's nasty, no one wants to go there, and he can barely even see who you are or make out who you are, especially when you've put all of this time and attention into your physical attractiveness, and you can't even use that to entice him or motivate him to come and see you. Now, the other thing, we want you to look inviting. Sometimes it's a mistake that we all make, we've all been there. We can all have a natural RBF. It's called a resting B-word face, okay? The reason I say that is because if you can be aware of the fact that naturally you tend to have an RBF, you can kind of loosen yourself up and remind yourself, if I want to be approached, I have to look approachable. If I have an RBF and I'm standing stiff as a board like this, and I look really awkward and I look like I don't want to be there, it's going to make a scenario and an environment in which the guy who is trying to approach me doesn't really want to approach me, because he's thinking in his mind that I'm less likely to get accepted by her, more likely to get rejected by her if I approach someone who looks like they're not even having fun here, who looks like they don't even want to be here. Because by the time I come up to her and I ask for her number or have a chat with her, she's probably just going to shoo me away and say, little boy, I don't want to talk, right? He wants to also feel like if he's going to take the chance and the opportunity to talk to you, that he has a good chance of actually walking away with your number and actually feeling accepted instead of rejected. The other thing is to make sure you're making long enough eye contact in the process of the crowd moving and shifting and you dancing and laughing, that he can be sure that you're actually looking at him. I always advise you, even in the crowd of people, right, when you're trying to prime a man to approach you, eye contact is such a great way to let him know, hey, I'm inviting you here that you can approach me. If you choose to approach me and come up to me and have a conversation with me, I'm not going to reject you. Eye contact is a great way to give men that confidence that when they do approach you, it'll be accepted. And you'll be happy about it and you'll want that. And so this is a good thing. But what you want to happen is that you want the eye contact to last long enough and not be what we call like a fast look, where the guy is questioning himself whether or not you're actually interested in him or whether or not you are even looking at him. I'll give you an example of what I mean, right? Like if you're just partying, having fun, you're dancing with your drink in your hand and things like that, and you're dancing with your girls, you're having a good time, and you just kind of look over like this, and then you're kind of over here, it's not enough for someone to feel like, oh, that person was actually making eye contact with me and we have a thing and she wants me to come up to her. But if you're dancing and you're having a good time and you're smiling and you're laughing, and as you're dancing, you're kind of looking at him, you're doing your little seductive dance. I don't know how to do a seductive woman dance, but you're doing your little seductive woman dance and you hold the eye contact for a couple of seconds, right? Then it can feel a lot more intentional and powerful. Then the man for himself, because he also has his own thoughts going through his mind, he can feel more confidence in the fact that when you just looked at him and you had that direct eye contact with him, that was for him. Not randomly looking around the place, just observing things that are going on. It was purposely to look at him and send him signals, okay? And once you do that also on a regular basis, right? So this is gonna happen multiple times, I'll even put here. Once this happens multiple times, then he begins to have the level of confidence where he says, not only is she looking at me, but she's also looking at me multiple times to send me a message that it's clearly she's focused on me, thinking about me, addressing me, and that she wants me to feel invited enough to come up to her and have a conversation with her. Point number 2 is about putting yourself in his path in a strategic way that makes it look like it was an accident. See, what you want to understand very quickly when you meet a man is what are his patterns of behavior. Because learning his patterns of behavior will give you an understanding of his natural routines, his daily and weekly routines, his monthly routines, the things that he likes to do. Now what you can do, this is very we don't tell anyone about this. As you begin to learn about his patterns of behavior, whether it be directly or indirectly, meaning whether you learn it from him directly or you learn it from his friends or you learn it from his coworkers, however you learn or gather that information. Now, we can do something strategic where we accidentally put you in the same areas, the same places, the same spaces as him, where he is the one coming across you in a way that feels very organic to him, okay? I know this seems very conniving, very mischievous, but I promise you, whenever you can do this in a strategic way that makes men feel like it was fate that brought you together, even if it wasn't, it's a lot better for you in terms of what you're trying to do, getting him to fall in love with you. Because we need to prime him to feel like when he finally chose to approach you, whether it be the very first time that he saw you at that club or bar, like in the example I gave earlier, or whether it be after a while of seeing you at the same, let's just say, cafe that he always sees you at 9 a.m., right? Whatever it may be is the way that he is continuously coming across you, or the way that you end up in his line of sight all the time, that he finally ends up asking you out or asking you on a date or asking for your number. We want to make sure that he feels like this came from his own choice and his own intrigue and interest in you, that he made a decision to say, hey, she's my vibe, she's attractive to me, I want to get to know her, I want to spend more time with her, I want to take her out on a date, so I'm going to ask her out on a date or take the chance of maybe getting rejected so that I have the chance to maybe get to know her. The reason I'm saying this is because we're still in the pre-selection phase, and we're still trying to do something very important for you in terms of your overall strategy. In order for us to get a man to truly fall in love with you, we have to allow him space to make choices. Much like hypnosis, it only works if the man that you're choosing is primed and ready to make the choice of falling in love. What you need to understand is that this is not going to work properly if you're choosing the wrong man to work this strategy on. Similar to hypnosis, it doesn't work if you're choosing someone to hypnotize who's not primed for hypnosis, who's not open to suggestion, who's not open to the idea that hypnosis is even possible, who doesn't believe in it, who's very stubborn, right? All of these things, you have to have a very malleable mind to even be hypnotized in the first place. The same way, when it comes to making a man fall in love, he has to be in a certain place in his life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and his interest has to be at a certain place in terms of his interest in you, his attraction to you, that we can then be certain that this strategy will work how it's supposed to. So everything we're doing with the path here and everything we were doing with the approach before is the pre-selection phase of understanding, will he respond to certain stimuli? I know I'm getting very, very technical here, but this is what we're trying to do. If he doesn't respond to certain stimuli, then you don't even need to work the rest of the magic or the strategy on this man. We need to make sure he's primed, responding to particular stimuli by you being in his path constantly, or you being in his line of sight that he eventually approaches you. Once he starts taking that bait and he starts asking you out, showing interest in you, now we can work the strategy even more, because now we know that he's actually primed and ready to fall in love with you. And if you want personal relationship advice from me, head down to the link in my description, click where it says private relationship advice, and you'll be able to type out and send a question into me. Then I'll respond with an 8 to 10 minute voice message, giving you very detailed and specific advice on your situationship or relationship with a man. Point number 3 is about emotional availability. Now you're probably asking me, Thompson, are we still in the pre-selection phase? Yes, we are. And you're probably wondering, why are we in this pre-selection phase for so long, Thompson? I want to get to the strategy. This is part of the strategy, and it's the most important part. Because if you don't identify who this man is and where he's at in the pre-selection phase, you'll be making a grave mistake of wasting a lot of time using a strategy on a man who none of this will work on. Emotional availability is so important to identify even as you begin starting to get to know the man that you're dating. Because you want to identify very quickly and early on, is his heart full of all of these other things like sadness, lovers, trauma, heartbreak, feelings for someone else, not you? Or is his heart open? What I mean by open is he open to the idea of falling in love? Does he believe that love is even in the cards for him? Because you'll meet some people and you'll meet some men and they'll say things like, yeah, I don't even think love is in the cards for me. Or I can't envision myself ever being in love with a woman. I can't envision myself ever being married. I think of myself as a bachelor for my entire life. That's another example of a heart being full. Because still, even if it might not be full with someone else on their mind or on their heart or on their spirit, they're full in the sense that they don't think that love is for them. So their heart is very closed off to the idea of falling in love. The reason I want you to very quickly identify that even when you begin going on these dates with this man is because your strategy won't work on a man whose heart is full. It really won't. Because as you're trying to do things and create environments for a man to fall in love with you, if he's not properly primed to do that, no strategy is going to make him ready to be able to fall in love with you. So that's why I don't want you wasting a lot of time and energy saying, Tomisin, I put all of your amazing, awesome, detailed steps into action and I did them perfectly, but it didn't work. Well, it probably didn't work because he wasn't very primed for this experience. Making sure a man's heart is open and spirit is open to the idea of love and a relationship and meeting someone new and actually being invested and committed to them is very, very, very important. So how do you do that? You ask this man question upon question upon question upon question of all of not just his most recent relationship, but his relationships even before that. Because for some men that you'll meet, the trauma and the sadness and the lover and the heartbreak isn't even from the most recent girlfriend. Unfortunately, for some men that you meet, the trauma, the heartbreak, and the feels is for the girlfriend before the most recent girlfriend. Because the most recent girlfriend was actually a rebound girlfriend for the actual girl who actually broke his heart, which is before that 2 years ago, okay? So I need you to get that information because that information is what you're gonna use to determine the final step of the pre-selection phase to understand if this guy is primed for your strategy to even begin working on him. Point number 4 is about perception. Now we're getting really into the nitty-gritty of your strategy here. See, because we wanna make sure throughout this whole process of him getting to know you, very important narratives are getting painted. And we're gonna talk about narratives in a little bit. One of those important narratives is going to be his perception of you. See, it's very important that you present yourself. If you're trying to make him fall in love with you, deeply in love with you, that you have a quiet confidence about you, that you don't need his approval. You don't need the approval of any other man. You don't need the approval of any girl or girlfriend. You don't need the approval of Instagram. There is no one that you need approval from except for you, because you know who you are. You're confident in who you are, and no one can tell you who you are or who you're not, because you know that your happiness comes from within you, and no one that comes in or out of your life will be able to bring happiness to you or take happiness away from you. This perception of you will be the difference between a man seeing you as valuable and putting you on a pedestal versus a man seeing you as a peasant and putting you below him. Quiet confidence for you as a woman is the best way to energetically attract as many men as possible. I'm going to be honest with you, because you don't understand how this quiet confidence can convey a very important message, which is that I am extremely desirable as a woman. When you possess this quiet confidence about you where you don't need approval from any external source outside of yourself, you're showing men that the only way for you to have this level of confidence within yourself, this is how they subconsciously take this, is for you to actually have a real value as a human being. Because if you don't need the external validation from other people, then it probably means you have a very clear understanding of the value that you bring to a relationship, to a friendship, to anybody that's going to have access to you because of the fact that you know who you are on the inside. So this is a very important perception of men to have of you from the very beginning. So how does this perception get built? It gets built in the way that you walk. I know it sounds weird, right? The way that you talk, specifically, listen up, I want you to be very clear. Specifically, the way that you talk about yourself, okay? The things that you say about yourself, the way that you talk about your own life, the way that you talk about other people's interactions with you, the stories that you tell of friendships that you have. When you tell him stories of how other people take advantage of you, when you tell him stories of how friends walk all over you like a doormat, and how people get chance after chance after chance after chance, and you forgive and forgive and forgive, and they use and use and use and take and take and take, his perception of you lowers. Because he doesn't see you as amazing, he sees you as a doormat, because that's what you're presenting yourself as. That doesn't speak towards quiet confidence. When you're constantly speaking towards the fact that you need validation from other people to feel good about what you're wearing, feel good about how your makeup is done, feel good about how your hair is done, right? When you're constantly speaking towards your insecurity of how you feel like you don't do anything right, you don't have confidence that you're doing the right job, you're saying the right thing, you're dressing the right way, and you always need someone else's approval, Instagram's approval, TikTok's approval, someone else's. I promise you, it will come out in the way that you talk about things. It'll come out in the way that you express. And I promise you, his perception of you will dwindle and dwindle over the course of time. So be very mindful of how you say things. Be very mindful of what you say. Be very mindful of the stories that you share with the man and the picture that you paint when you share those stories. Always deliver that quiet confidence where I know who I am. I understand what I'm about. I know what's important to me. When I find someone, when I interact with people, I just try to find people who I'm aligned with. But I first know who I am to figure out who I'm aligned with. And if you don't, we want to make sure that you're figuring out that first. Point number 5 is about the narrative. Now, I talked about this in my earlier point, but what I want you to understand is so important when you're dating a man and you're trying to get him to fall in love with you. You are in control of your narrative. Because your narrative, right, your timeline of events of your life, your past relationships, everything you've been through is going to be processed by him when you're telling him stories, when he's seeing pictures and videos of who you've been, he's looking through your Instagram, all that stuff is going to be information processed by him that he's now going to develop his own story and idea and picture of not just who you are since he's met you, but who you've been. Controlling this narrative is very important because, like we talked about in our previous point, it controls his perception of you. His perception of you is subsequently going to mean the difference between how he chooses to treat you or how he chooses to mistreat you. We want to make sure his perception of you is very high, very good, very valuable, so that he treats you accordingly, right? So what are some of the key elements of narratives that you want to be in control of? You need to control the narrative of your exes, especially your most recent ex, okay? So what do I mean by that? When you're telling him the story of what you've been through with your ex, very, very, very important. You paint the picture and you frame it in a way where even if he treated you badly, I don't want you coming out and making it seem as if this guy got to walk all over you like a doormat, use you up, shrivel you up, and throw you away. That will not give us the right perception of you. We want to make it look like, hey, I came to my own realization that me and my ex were not aligned. He was not what I wanted, okay? We're always thinking of I. I came to realizations about what is most important to me, what is most valuable to me, what I need in a relationship. And I then realized that he wasn't the type of partner that I wanted to be with anymore. Once I had that realization, there was no going back, right? This is where we kind of get into the breakup here, right? You need to have a narrative control of the breakup. Now, I'm not saying you have to lie. So for example, if the guy broke up with you, I'm not saying you have to lie and say that, you broke up with him instead. But what I want to happen is I want you to paint the narrative that, hey, even though our relationship ended, once I came to the realization, once I was out of it, and I realized what was really transpiring, it became even more clear to me that that guy was not what I needed based on what is most important to me. Once again, we're focusing on your realizations. Once again, we're focusing on the fact that you have clarity. You have understanding. In your clarity and in your understanding, you do not get walked all over, right? Because in the process of you having all of these, the breakup and the realizations that you're going to have, you then had growth. You had growth in the way that you allow things to happen or don't allow things to happen. You had growth in the way that you respect yourself. You had growth in your realizations about yourself, about your life, about the way that you want to approach things. You had growth in the way that you carry yourself. You had growth in the places that you hang out, your environments, your friendships. All of the growth that you experience now led into the new you, which is the other thing you want to have a very tight, firm grip on in terms of the narrative about you, okay? That in the process of you going through your growth stage, after your relationships, because everything you learn from, there is nothing that happens to you that you don't learn from. And as you grew, you became a newer, stronger, more intelligent, more powerful, more sexy, more beautiful, more awesome version of yourself. One that would never in a million years date this man, okay, right? This is the narrative we want to paint, right? This new version of you would never entertain the type of relationship that you once had with that ex. I'm not saying that you need to take a poop on all of your exes, even if they treated you well. What I'm saying is, once you get to the point where you say to yourself, okay, I am now, moving forward, and I've learned some things of why that relationship didn't work out, I want you to paint the narrative that once I come to my realizations, once I have more clarity, because I'm always searching for clarity, because I'm always growing, because I'm always developing, because I'm always asking myself questions, because I'm always curious, and I'm always moving forward in progression, never regression, that once I understand what my new needs are, what is newly most important to me, based on that growth, I don't go backwards, okay? These are very important narratives to paint for a couple of reasons. One, we want to show him that even if anything did bad happen in this past relationship, like he cheated on you, like he treated you badly, like whatever the case may be, that is not the new version of you. So don't have in your mind, if you ever hear a story of, yeah, he cheated on me, or yeah, you know, he went behind my back one time, or I caught him texting another girl. Don't have in your mind that I'm telling you that story because you can do that same thing, right? It's very important for his perception of you. Also, we want to make sure that he understands that your value level is in a place where when you move forward, you move forward. You're not in a place where you allow people to be in your life casually in these gray areas that make it so that you have multiple attachments to people in ways that are deemed to be inappropriate. For example, you don't want to present yourself or have no control of the narrative about your ex, and then a guy, right, builds a story in his mind, builds his own narrative that maybe you still are in love with your ex, or maybe you still entertain your ex, or maybe your ex is still in your life in some way, shape, form, or capacity. Maybe he's still friends with your mom. Maybe he still hangs out with your brother. Any of those type of situations, you're losing control of the narrative, and subsequently you'll lose control of the man because you'll lose control of his perception of you. Because the reality of it is, for us as men, we value women who know how to set boundaries. We value women who have self-respect. We value women who know how to cut men off when they stop progressing the relationship forward, or when they stop putting their best foot forward. So a man who was once your boyfriend, who now downgraded you to be a side chick, or downgraded you to be a best friend, and is still able to have access to you and still able to be in your life, that speaks to us that we shouldn't hold you in such high regard, because clearly there's other men who don't hold you in high regard and still have access to you. We're also trying to paint the picture, trying to paint the narrative that men who have access to you show up for you. Men who have access to you do the right thing for you, take action for you, put their best foot forward for you. Not men having access to you and they ain't doing nothing for you, okay? Not men having access to you and they're neglecting you or wasting time or not being intentional with you. Point number 6 is about being seductive. Now, I want to break this down in a deeper way because I know when I say seduction, a lot of you say, well, what does seduction really actually mean in a tangible sense? So magic is mystery. I want you to just take that in for a little bit. Whenever you think of something that is magical, part of the reason it's magical is because it's mysterious. Mysterious, or things that are mysterious, things that have mystery, is also very seductive to you. And I don't just mean in a sense of romance, I also mean seductive in terms of intrigue, in terms of interest. Now, how do we actually get magic and how do we actually get mystery? We get mystery by talking less and asking more. One of the staples that you'll notice on my show whenever I talk to you guys about relationships and men is you always want to come in with a curious spirit, asking a lot of questions, asking a lot of deep questions, which we're going to discuss in a little bit, okay? Making sure that you're a questionnaire whenever you're around him. All you're trying to focus on is learning more and more about him every single day. Every second you meet him, every second you talk to him, every time you're on the phone, every time you're on FaceTime, every time you're in person, you love chatting. None of this listening to music, just vibing, sitting in the car, just exit. No. You want to make a man fall in love with you? You chat. And I mean chat from the standpoint of you asking an abundance of questions, okay? Because in the process of you talking less and asking more, well, I should say in the process of you asking more, you're obviously going to have less room to talk because he's going to be sharing so much. That's automatically creating mystery, right? And this is the easiest way to create mystery for those of you who struggle to be mysterious, okay? You don't have to wear all black like me. You don't have to wear all black and fishnets to be mysterious, okay? You don't have to do anything weird or edgy, as the kids would say, to be mysterious. You can be mysterious simply by being yourself and asking more questions. How do we get magic though? Okay, magic comes from not trying and then being naive. When I say not trying, let me explain that part first. See, there's nothing wrong with actually trying, But the best part about actually trying is when you tell people you're not trying in a way that's kind of believable, where they're kind of like, oh, maybe you actually don't try. One of the things that makes me think of that whenever I say this, right, is the song by Beyonce. I can't remember the name of the actual song, but you know how she said, I woke up like this, flawless. I think it's called Flawless, right? And she says, I woke up like this, right? The whole point of that song is to make you feel like I came out of bed just like perfection, okay? I didn't have to do any work for it. I didn't have to, do any squats for it. I didn't have to do my hair. Everything you see on me, as beautiful as I look, I woke up like this. That's the same type of energy you want to be giving men, even if you didn't wake up like this. Because what it does is it breeds a lot of confidence out of you. I woke up like this. I'm just like that. I don't need any extras to be that, right? The other thing you want, right, in terms of creating magic within you is the fact that you are naive to how your mystery is playing on his mind, how intriguing you are, because remember, mystery is seduction, and how seductive you are in your approach and in your energy and in your aura. This is going to sound very weird, but when a guy compliments you and says, oh my gosh, you're one of the most interesting women I've ever met. Oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about you that I just can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop, wanting to be around you. I can't stop wanting to spend time with you. See, what I want you to do is at those times where he's almost questioning himself on how you're so magical, how you're so amazing, how you're so awesome, I want you to also ask him, I don't know, what do you think it is? Because honestly, I don't do anything. I just sit here and just be me. Like, I'm really just naturally a curious person. I ask questions. I'm not trying to do anything. Maybe you could explain it to me. Is it something that I've done? Is it something that I said? And even if he says, oh, it's the fact that, when you talk, you just have so much confidence. When you walk, even if he says everything that we talked about in this show that you've been doing, that is making him have so much interest in you, that's making you so seductive, you say, oh, that's interesting. I never really thought of that. I don't know what it could be. I really don't really try that hard. I just try and be myself, and that's really all I can be. That's all I really want to be. It's so much more, it's so much more seductive and attractive when men feel like you're literally not doing it on purpose, because it makes it feel like you have magic fairy dust just flowing around you that you don't even have control of, which just makes it more enticing that you don't even have control of your magic fairy dust. It makes you feel so much more magical. And then when you combine that with the mystery of you talking less and asking more questions, now you combine and put yourself in an environment where men want more of you constantly. They want to talk to you more. They want to hang out with you more. They want to be around you more. They want to get to know you more. And this is the perfect place for a man to be able to continuously fall in love with you and get on the path to being deeply, deeply in love with you. So for point number 7, you have to validate men, but you have to do it in a very specific way that will actually trigger the right emotions. See, a lot of women make the mistake of trying to validate men through their words. And that's the worst thing you can possibly do when it comes to guys. Why? Because with men, when you validate them through your words, like saying, oh, you're so attractive, I think you're so handsome, you're the best guy I've ever dated, I've never dated anyone like you, it's too what I call on the nose, meaning that when men receive that, they stop questioning anything about you, anything about what you think, and there stops being an element of mystery to you. Now, I know some of you will say, Tomisin, I'm not mysterious. I don't have a mysterious bone in my body. And I know some of you will say, well, isn't mystery toxic? Why can't I just communicate my feelings? You can't. And I want you to communicate your feelings, but you're going to do it through your body. Okay? Now, let me explain to you why this works so much better for making a man fall in love with you and catch feelings for you. See, when you validate him, meaning tell him and express to him that you like him through your body language, it feels very different because it's something you can almost touch as a man, but you can't quite touch it, so you can't quite be absolutely sure about it. So when a girl is doing things like touching your arm and touching your elbow and smiling at you and looking deep into your eyes and giving you that direct eye contact, as a man, we kind of go to ourselves, no, she definitely likes me. But the fact that you're not saying that you like me makes me still question just a little bit, just enough for there to be a hint of doubt that am I really reading this right? Am I feeling what I think I'm feeling in my body and my soul and my spirit? Or is that just me projecting onto this scene what I think is happening, even though that's not actually happening? Is she just being nice? That little bit of gray area that a man will have in his mind of whether you're just trying to be nice or whether you actually like him is just enough mystery to be enticing, to do what I love to call lean in a little bit, okay? So, like I said, body validation looks like touching his arm, touching his elbow, laughing at his jokes that aren't really that funny, making sure you're always trying to break the touch barrier. Maybe you put your hand on his chest because the joke's so funny you need him to lean on, whatever the case may be. You're showing all 32 teeth. You're looking at him, looking like you're paying attention and actually care about what he's saying. Being a good listener in the sense of like when he's telling you a story, he can see through your facial reactions, even if you're not actually speaking words, that you're following along with the story. So for example, if you're telling me a story and I'm following along with the emotion of your story, I'm reacting like this silently. That goes a long way, right? Very different, the feeling that you will receive as you're telling me the story than if I just am straight face, right? So very important. Understand how to validate men through your body language. Do not worry about validating them through your words. It's not going to serve you. It's not going to do what you need to do. And it's going to lower your mystery level, so to speak. Okay. Point number 8 is about insecurities, because one thing I don't want you doing is telling a man too early on in this dating or talking stage about your deepest, darkest insecurities, especially the traumatic ones. The reason I drew this kind of like a funnel, so to speak, is because I want you to keep it surface level in terms of what you share about these insecurity of yours. Now, I'll kind of break down these levels that I made up for you, right? We have surface level, things that you would tell someone, even that you just met. Oh, I really hate when people chew bubble gum. That really is one of my pet peeves, right? Things that you would tell your coworkers. Oh, to be honest with you, I've always hated math tests because numbers make me really uncomfortable and sweaty, right? Things like that. More personal things like, oh, to be honest, I don't really have the best relationship with my brother and me and him don't really get along well, right? Those type of things. Then you have deeper pains like, oh, you know, one of the things that I hated that my mother did to me, one time I came home and I told her something that was really deep and she promised not to tell my dad, and then she went and told my dad anyways. Then we have traumatic events in your life, things that you're deeply insecure about, events in your life that have shaped you in ways that you almost cry every time you express this thing or this pain in your life or this insecurity of yours because of how deeply personal it is. If someone attacks that of you, you will cry on the spot, okay? We all have things that are deep and traumatic to us. Nothing wrong with that. But what you must understand, when you start dating a man, it is not the time to be sharing with him this level of trauma right from the beginning. Listen, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be kind of counterintuitive and going to sound kind of toxic. The reality of it is, when you want a man to fall in love with you, we need him to see you as the amazing, awesome princess that you are, fall in love with you, because that is still you. And then as he falls in love with that amazing, awesome princess that you are, he will then get to know more and more levels and layers to your personality and to your being. I want that for you. The problem is when you overshare these traumas right from the beginning, you're kind of saying, no. Don't see me as amazing and awesome. No. Don't see me as this goddess of a woman that you're imagining that I am. See me as this broken, unhealed, piece of thrown away, used up trash, that how I've been treated like garbage, how people have mistreated me, how my life is so horrible. Listen, I know that you've been through things and I know that you want to express those things, especially to a guy you're in a relationship with. I want you to express those things, but I want us to pace ourselves in the way we express to men, especially men that we're not sure yet that we're safe with. And also because we want men to build up their own fairy tale in their mind of you. The same way you'll meet a guy and the less you know about him, the hotter he is. It's the same thing for men. You want to give them a chance to fall in love with that fairy tale idea that you're a goddess. Why? Listen, it's something that you're going to do for yourself, okay? Because when he sees you as this goddess, when he sees you as this woman of abundance and love and joy, and you're just so amazing, you're like a fairy, right? That is when he will act on the relationship and approach you and date you as if you're a goddess, okay? And we need that type of energy from a man, especially at the very beginning, if he's gonna fall in love with you. Because men are gonna fall in love with their idea of you, because their idea of you is gonna lead to the actions they take towards you. The actions they take towards you will reinforce in their own mind how important you are, how much they like you, and how much they wanna be in a relationship with you. Point number 9 is about competition. I'm gonna warn you, this is gonna sound toxic, but I promise you it will help you get to where you wanna go. In order to get a man to fall in love with you, you need to show him that he is in competition with other men for access to you. Now, obviously, we want to balance this and do this in a way that is non-toxic. However, it's very important for a man to be able to take note of this firsthand. For example, when you go out to an event or a party with him, right, you're inclined to say, okay, I'm going to this event or party, even though I might know people, even though I might be friends with other people and want to chit chat with other people, I'm going to stay on his arm because I want him to feel like I only am there for him. No, no, no. I actually want you to strategically allow moments to come where maybe he goes to the bathroom or you go to the bathroom and then you guys come back, you're scattered around, he's talking to someone, and maybe someone strikes a conversation with you. Maybe a guy comes up to you and starts having a conversation with you, and maybe this is an attractive guy. These are the moments that they just happen out of coincidence, but I want you to allow them to happen. And I want you to strategically understand if he can get a chance to see another guy flirting with you, or another guy attracted to you, or another guy approaching you. This is good, especially at the beginning when we're trying to get him to be really invested here, because this is a first-hand example for him of the fact that there is competition for you, meaning only the person who puts his best foot forward will get access to you, okay? That is essentially the prize here. And the men who are unwilling to do the work, who really aren't about what they say they're about, who really don't have much to offer, will finish in second and maybe even third place, and they will never get access to you. But that's good. You want men to be able to recognize that, because truthfully and honestly, I'm going to make this sound horrible. When men can recognize that there's competition for you, they inherently believe that you must be very valuable in order for men to be competing for you, in order for men to be approaching you. So even if you're thinking to yourself, I don't look like a supermodel, okay? I don't look like the girls who walk Victoria's Secret. It doesn't matter. As long as you can present that other men seem to want to approach you and seem to want to talk to you and seem to want to flirt with you, that's enough to make, even if you think you're mid, for you as a mid girl, if you think you're mid, to look even hotter and sexy and seductive to that man. Point number 10 is about the imbalance, specifically the information imbalance, because the person with the most information will always win in a relationship, regardless of the outcome. Meaning, whether or not you guys end up together, whether it ends in a breakup, whether it ends in you guys dating and getting married, you will win if you have the most information. Why is that? Because when you have the most information, you get to react and respond based on that, hopefully truthful information. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I'll actually give you a perfect example as it relates to what guys have been doing to you. See, when they sit down and on your first date and they ask you things like, what are you looking for? You might think that that's an innocent question, but remember, you answer this question, what are you looking for? Let's just say by answering, so I've really been looking for a man who would buy me red roses because those are my favorite roses. And I've always been looking for a man who would take me to a sushi date because I've never been on a sushi date. And I've always been looking for a man who would take me to the aquarium because I never got to go as a child. And you go into all of this amazing, awesome detail about all the things you specifically want in your dream man. That's what you're looking for. And you're just being honest about that. Now, in that scenario, his info is way outweighing your info because you spent the entire date or multiple dates talking so much about yourself, talking so much about what you want, that he now has a picture perfect, crystal clear understanding of exactly what your specific needs are. So now he can get to scrape through all of this amazing information that he just gained directly from the source and ask himself, what can I do now? What is the easiest to do? What is the easiest to present to her? And then he will present to you all the things that you said you've been asking for based on the fact that you spoke about those things when he asked you, what are you looking for? So now we understand why giving information is so powerful or can make you so powerless. Because when he gets that information of exactly what you're looking for, he gets closer to your heart and he gets to become exactly what you need. It's the same thing for you. When you get this information imbalance going on in your dating and your talking stages with men, one, it makes them feel closer to you because they're expressing and being honest with you about things about themselves, which is always going to make someone feel closer to you. And number two, it creates a scenario where you can then ask yourself, which of these things that you're discussing about what you want in a woman, what you want out of a relationship, what are those qualities and do those qualities exist in me? And if those qualities exist in me, how can I emphasize those qualities to you so that those are the things specifically about me that you see the most? Do you see how powerful this can be? Because now when he's telling you, yeah, I really want, a woman who can pick me up when I'm down because sometimes I go through a lot of stressful situations at work, and having someone that I can just vent to and be honest to about like my work life and how I'm feeling because I have to be such a strong man at work. Let's say you really get him to dump that much info on him. Now, oh, perfect. I'm already good at that and letting people talk and listening and all that good stuff. Now I know specifically whenever I see you or talk to you, I'll ask you about work and how's work doing and the stresses that you're going through at work. And I'll always make sure to emphasize how good of a listener I am when it comes to hearing about your work problems, because you've emphasized in giving me info about you that's one of your pain points. That's one of the places in your life where you would desire the most for someone to come in and fill that void. Point number 11 is about texting, because texting is one of the easiest places to go wrong and actually ruin everything when it comes to that man loving you. See, you think that texting is really about using words to communicate to someone via text, but the way more powerful way to use text is to emphasize visuals of narratives that we want this man to believe in. I know it sounds very complex. Let me explain this and break this down to you. See, you might get into the habit of using texting as a way to actually get to know a guy or to communicate things about yourself to that guy, things that you should be talking about on an actual in-person date. That's a mistake. I do not want you using texting that way, okay? You might also make the mistake of using texting to communicate your deeper thoughts and feelings. So whenever something is bothering you, whenever something's wrong, whenever you're hurt by something, you're texting paragraphs. We're done with that. We're not using texting for that. The only real thing I want you using texting for is to emphasize visuals via pictures and videos of what it is you're doing throughout your day. Why? Because we want this narrative to be building from the very beginning that you are a busy girl with lots of things to do. And you don't have to be working at a Fortune 500 company to be a busy girl. I just mean you're busy in the sense that you're always doing things, whether they are for you, for your friends, for your family. You have abundance in your life. And these pictures and videos are a perfect way to send that visual message that you have abundance in your life. For example, right? Let's say you're having conversation with the guy throughout the day. Rather than sending him a bunch of text throughout the day, you can say, oh, this morning I went to the gym, and you can send him a picture or a video of you at the gym, right? You can say, oh, well, this afternoon I went for a hike, and you can show him a picture or a video of you at the hike or a video of the scenery when you got to the top of the mountain. All of these type of things, right? So much more intriguing, so much more interesting, and they emphasize that narrative of, oh, she's doing things throughout the day, coupled with the fact that I don't want you over messaging men throughout the day every 5 minutes. And I want you, especially when you're away from them, meaning not with them in person, to give them an opportunity to have space to actually miss you and think of you. Because when you can emphasize that you have things going on in your life and that's the reason you haven't texted him back in the past hour or so, it's a perfect visual and understanding for him to know, okay, When she didn't message me, it's not because she's necessarily ignoring me or whatever the case may be. It's just because she actually has things to do and places to be. And when you become more memorable like this, immediately you have a man leaning in just a little bit more. Point number 12 is about being unbothered, because this will have you giving off the energy that I know you want to give off, because I know you want to receive this energy from a man. Let me explain. When a guy acts up, okay, whether it be over social media by the things that he posts, whether it be the way that he treats you in being aloof or not being present or not showing you the same amount of effort or attention that he once was, or even in the way that he talks to you in general, the worst thing you can possibly do is show him how bothered you are, i.e., how the kids say, crash out. Right? Spam texting him, calling him a million times, showing up at his door, having the doorman let you. Don't do any of that, okay? All that will lead to is making you give off what I call peasant energy. What we're trying to establish in this relationship with him in order to get him to fall in love with you is that you possess queen energy. The queen does not concern herself with peasants. And we want to help him understand that even when he does act up here, he is not going to get the response that he is expecting when he acts up. You're going to basically give him a response of whatever, which really just means that you're going to ignore him. Because we want him to understand that if he's not willing to put forth the effort in terms of the attention, the time, the energy, the consistency that you need for a man in order to be in a relationship with him and in order for him to get access to you, you're not going to be bothered by that. That's not going to be the end of your world. Why? Because when you met him, you were already living a life of abundance. In your friendships, with your family, just in general, you have love all around you, surrounding you. So the fact that this guy wants to act up now and post weird things and be weird and be very inconsistent, it's not going to bother you. You're not going to beg for his time. You're not going to beg for his attention. You ain't going to beg for a damn thing. See, what will happen here? Guys will try to get you to be bothered by telling you things like, oh, I feel like you just don't care about me. Oh, I feel like I like you more than you like me. Don't allow that to put you in a position where you start thinking, well, maybe I should show him how bothered I get by the things that he does. Maybe I should show him my extremely, extremely, extremely jealous side and how I stalk his followers. Don't do that, okay? The worst thing for you to do at the beginning is to give him that bothered energy. It makes you look as if you have no life. It makes you look as if you spend all day stalking what he's doing, who he's with, and where he's hanging out. Guys find it very difficult to fall for you when they don't feel that space in terms of the emotional space to actually do the falling. Because if you're always bothered about everything that he's doing, you're very much up in his face, right? You're all up on his body, as the kids say, right? When you all on his body, it doesn't allow him to say, oh, I want you. I'm feeling you. It doesn't allow him to be the one on your body, right? There can only really be one person at a time who's doing the leaning forward. And if you're bothered, you're the one doing the leaning forward emotionally. Point number 13 is about saying no, because it's one of the most important words in your repertoire, especially when you start dating a guy. See, you don't want guys to be of the belief that you don't know how to say no to them because you like them so much. Why? It's going to come across, I should say, as you are giving him special treatment because you like him so much and he's so amazing and he's so hot and he's so sexy. You just can't bear to tell him no. Wrong. We do not want to paint that narrative. Let's give an example of how you can say no and why I want you saying no at certain times. Let's say it's a Tuesday afternoon and he's saying, oh, you know what? I haven't seen you in a week and I really want to see you very soon. And it just dawned on me that I haven't seen you in so long and I miss you so much. I would love if we could hang out literally tomorrow. And I would love if tomorrow when we hang out, you could just come over to my place and we could watch Netflix together. I would love that because I miss you so much. I just can't wait another day to see you. This is one of those times where it's going to feel very bad to say no, but I want you to say no every time. Because when a guy makes an offer to you that is very low effort, right? When a guy has been inconsistent with you for the past week, and then all of a sudden he's showing up and saying, let's hang out tomorrow. And still, even the tomorrow when we hang out, I want us to do something low effort. You have to turn those down. Because The painful part about that is when he approaches you and says, let's hang out on Wednesday, and today is Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night, you're going to feel like, oh, he's approaching me with this good energy finally. He's finally looking like he's putting forth some effort. He's finally showing me some attention. And I like that attention. If I say no to him, well, Tomisin, what if Thursday comes, Friday comes, Saturday comes, Sunday comes, and we don't hang out all the way until next Wednesday? Oh my God, I can't wait. Stop it. Stop it. This is why you need to have abundance in your life in terms of having an already existing repertoire of things to do and places to go, right? Those already need to be your pillars that are in place. We can't have you thinking in a poverty mindset where you're thinking automatically, if I don't see him tomorrow, what if another week goes by? What if another week goes by, right? That's not in your control here. If he's not going to ask you out on a proper date for a whole nother week, then that's his prerogative. Or if your schedules don't line up for a whole nother week and you guys can't see each other again until next week, then so be it. If he really wants to get you as soon as possible, then this Tuesday, he should schedule you for next Wednesday so he can ensure that he sees you that day. You can't get overly consumed with the idea that if I tell this guy no, what if he reacts wrong to me saying no to him? What if he doesn't like hearing the word no? And what if the next time that he's actually free on the Wednesday, what if I say no to him on this Wednesday here, right? And now this next Wednesday comes and he actually is free, but he doesn't hit me up to ask me to hang out. And then now all of a sudden we're going multiple weeks, if not the whole month, without seeing each other when I could just say yes easily and see him the next day or the day of. It's very easy for me, but it doesn't do what I want it to do for you, which is show him that you are not giving him any sort of special treatment. He is not going to get treated any differently than you would treat or go about a relationship with another guy. That humbling will remind him firsthand that if he wants to get access to you, he's got to show up the right way. That's the only option to get access to you. There is no other version of getting access to you just because he looks good, just because he's 6'3", just because he's got some money, right? This sets the right precedent and the right narrative. You have queen energy regardless of where you go, with whoever it is you're dating, okay? Point number 14 is about never overstaying your welcome. This is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of women are making so easily, okay? This is kind of a little bit of a graph. Don't get nervous. It's not too much math here. I just want you to kind of visualize how this works and why it works this way. Excitement on a date, whenever someone sees you for the first time in a while, or even the first time since a couple of days ago, it's very strange the way that this works. See, you're really kind of building up in your excitement to see someone, and you love spending time with them, and you haven't seen their face and you see their body and you're so mesmerized by them and you're reminded of how beautiful they are. And so the excitement when you're with someone is building and building and building and building and building, and then it hits this kind of like peak. And most of the time, to be honest, in my own experience, that peak is right around this 2-hour mark, where basically a man will be tapped out in terms of the peak of his excitement to see you. Because at this point, he's already spent enough time with you, whether you guys are going out on a dinner date or going out to a picnic. He's gotten to see how you look. He's gotten to be re-mesmerized by you, re-reminded of your beauty. He's gotten to take you in. He's gotten to hug you, maybe kiss you at this point, touch you, be close to you, smell your perfume, all that good stuff. And then we get to around this 2-hour mark and bad things start happening. Because at this point, where he's kind of reached his peak in terms of the amount of excitement that he has, now we start to dwindle down a little bit. And as we're dwindling down a little bit, right, because more time is passing and you guys are still on this date, still on this picnic, still on this hangout, now we're doing something very horrible for you. We are overstaying our welcome, because the reality of it is, especially when you start dating a guy from the very beginning, as this kind of goes down here, you're building a narrative. See, he's starting to say to himself, yeah, I was really excited to see her. Now we're on hour 3 and she's great. She's awesome. She's so amazing. And then once we start approaching hour 4, he's kind of like, yeah, this has been quite the date. We've had quite the conversation. I'm reminded of how beautiful you are. Now I'm starting to think about like my day tomorrow, right? Then we get to hour number 5, number 6, and in some cases we go to like 8 hours and even a sleepover. Especially at the very beginning, it's very, very bad because now instead of a guy seeing you and him being filled with joy, being filled with euphoria of the fact that he's seeing you for the first time in a while and being reminded of how beautiful you are, and then you being gone, now he's reminded of, oh yeah, I'm with this girl, but yeah, I did have other stuff to do tomorrow. Yeah, I've got this work project and I've got this thing to do and I've got that to do. And now he's actually in your presence now, but he's forgetting about the fact that you're there and his mind is on other things. See, this is why this can be so bad for you, because now when a guy thinks back to the feeling that he felt when he's around you, imagine this: the more hours you spend with him, and this kind of excitement is dwindling down and down and down, eventually you'll get to a point where he spent more hours having less excitement or little to no excitement for you and with you than he did having this buildup of excitement. And so by the time he thinks back to his experience when he was around you, he's remembering more of the lack of excitement that he felt around you than he is the short burst or short hour and a half or 2 hours where he actually felt some excitement. So very important, never overstay your welcome at the beginning, even if he begs you to do it, okay? You're never gonna sleep over at the very beginning. You're never gonna go back to his house at the very beginning. You're never gonna let any of your dates, I don't care what you guys are doing at the very beginning, to extend past 2 hours. You're always gonna cut it short. Because at the end of the day, no matter how upset he is, no matter how much he complains, no matter how much he wants you to stay, if you leave him while he's in this mode, all he'll be able to remember is the fact that he was so excited to see you, he got to see you, and it still didn't feel like enough. That is perfect for the narrative you're building, because that narrative will stick to his mind and remind him when you're not in his presence how much he likes you because of the feeling that you give him when he's around you. So point number 15 is about making him feel like he's the only boy in the world. Now, this is really important because you have to do it the right way. Now, I know the drawing I made is a little bit funny, but there is a lot of truth to this drawing, especially when we're talking about the mental part. See, this is the thing. Men become addicted to the feeling of feeling important. The same way you like attention, men also like attention. Now, there's different ways in which you give a man attention than what you'll give a woman attention that will feel good to them. Now, this is the thing. When you go out on your date with the guy, this is your chance to make him feel the feeling of, oh my gosh, you think he's so interesting. You think he's so fascinating. You love hearing him talk about his life and his needs and his desires and his wants and everything he has to say. He's like the most interesting person to you. This is great. This is the type of attention that men feed off of. This is the type of attention that is so intoxicating to them, because rarely do they ever go out into the world as a man and really feel like the most important person in the room. There's always someone with more money than them. There's always someone with a bigger pee-pee than them. There's always someone taller than them, stronger than them. And so they're always a side character. At least they feel like one for majority of the time that they spend in their life. Now, when you go on this date with him in person and you give him the feeling that he is the most important person to you, not by saying it, but by making him feel it through your body language and through the attention that you pay while he's talking to you, this is so intoxicating. This is why I talked about earlier, why you don't validate men with your words. You validate men through your body language and through the energy that you give off, because that feeling is something that is unforgettable. Words, it's easy to jumble them up and forget what someone said to you. It's impossible to forget how someone made you feel. So this is so important because there's a very key element of contrast that I want you to give here. See, this feeling of you're the most interesting person in the world should only be coming, right? Coming. Should only be coming in person, okay? This is the key. This is the gold star to everything we're trying to do here. Because if this is coming, if you're trying to do this while you're not with him, we're going to be doing so many things wrong, it'll spin your head. you have to make sure there's a contrast between the feeling he receives from you when you guys are together and on dates and the feeling he receives from you when you guys are not on dates. Now, I'm not saying be a toxic person and completely ignore him. Don't text him back. Don't answer his calls when you're not with him because you don't want him to feel as interesting as on the date. But what I want there to be a feeling of is a feeling of distance emotionally. That intoxicating feeling that he felt when he was on that date with you, where you were getting he was getting your undivided attention and you were paying attention to every word. You were responding with your body language and your energy. You looked interested in the conversation. You took interest in his interest. That feeling that he felt, he cannot and should not be able to recreate that in any other scenario than in person. This is a key element to your success here in terms of getting this man to fall in love with you. Because when he starts to make this subconscious connection, okay, I get this intoxicating feeling of feeling so interesting when I'm with her in person and on these dates. When we're not together in person and maybe we're just texting each other, maybe we're just casually chatting, no matter what I do, I never get that same intoxicating feeling. So he starts to put two and two together. Anytime I want that intoxicating feeling, I need to see her in person. What ends up happening? You get more dates. Because remember, we're doing something for a desired outcome. You don't want to be in a relationship with the best texter. And a man is never going to be able to fall in love with you by texting you or by FaceTiming you. He's only going to fall in love with you the more he can see you and the more he can get this intoxicating feeling of, oh my gosh, I've never felt this much desired. I've never felt this important. I've never felt this paid attention to. That feeling is quite very, very addicting for men. Point number 16 is about wounds, because understanding a man's wounds in the context of his entire life will give you the greatest understanding of a man that you'll feel like you've unlocked a new level when it comes to your dating experience. Why? Because when you understand wounds, you'll understand two key elements of a man. One, you'll understand how his past experiences has shaped him to be the person he is today, which will better help you understand why he's reacting and responding to particular things in a particular way. And number two, this understanding of his wounds will give you the key entry point to understand how do you fit into his life in a way that's very specific and unique to him, that will allow you to become irreplaceable in his life. Let me explain and break down both of those elements that I'm kind of discussing here. So when you think about things that a man has felt throughout the context of his life, like betrayal, his relationship with his boys, his failures, his fears, his childhood traumas, all of these types of things, in your understanding of that, you'll get different stories on his life and of these key events that have happened to him. Now, as you get this understanding, you can better understand, oh, I see now. You have a fear of abandonment from your relationship with your mom or from your relationship with your dad, because when you were younger, your dad never claimed you and he was gone very early on. And so now the way that that scarred you, you're always trying to jump on top of it whenever you feel like someone's pulling away from you. So you immediately run away from them before you ever feel too close to someone because you don't want to be disappointed, right? In that understanding, when you start to hear these particular stories and you start to say, aha, I see why you react and respond that way. This understanding will bring you a lot of clarity, which will also ease your own anxiety, because as you're understanding better, I see how this experience connects to this way you're of a person, the way your personality is, the way your character is. Now you don't have to worry or be scared that, oh, why did you react this way? Why did you respond this way? You understand how his experiences have shaped him to become the person that he is. You also get a better understanding as you learn and put all these pieces of the puzzle together. This is a puzzle, by the way. As you put all these pieces of the puzzle together, you get a better understanding of what to expect from him and how to work with his already existing nature. Now, the other amazing part of that is that as you begin to understand these wounds a little bit better, you get a better, more clear understanding of where you're going to attack. So for example, if he's experienced a lot of betrayal in his life from his parents, from his siblings, from his co-workers, and from his friends, and you figure out that that's like a reoccurring theme that he's had in his life, which is betrayal. Now you can understand, okay, So there's certain things he's kind of expecting out of a partner or out of anyone that comes in his life for them to betray him because of these particular experiences. How do I reinforce the fact that he won't experience betrayal in our relationship? Not by giving him everything that he wants. I never want you to do that. But in a way that serves him in a unique way where he starts to feel more comfortable opening up to me. He starts to feel more comfortable around me because he doesn't feel like this same experience of betrayal, this same fear that he might have, he'll experience with me, right? That's an example of figuring out, okay, what is the pain point of this man? What is the experience that he's been struggling with? And how do I fit in his life in a way where I fill that void? Because make no mistake about it, if a man's been experiencing a particular painful experience in his life through his family, his friends, and in this example, betrayal, and you can be the one person in his life that fills that void or gives him something that he's never been able to experience before, you become irreplaceable because without you, that experience leaves. And so because you leave or walk out of his life, that void is now gaping and open in his heart and in his soul. So understanding the wound is so important because when you understand the wound, you can figure out how to fill the void and make yourself irreplaceable. Point number 17 is about the reward because make no mistake about it. You cannot go an entire relationship and expect a man to catch real feelings for you if you don't understand how to give him incentives, how to motivate him, and how to make him feel appreciated when he does do work for you. This is a mistake that a lot of you will make on accident because maybe you've been taught or told the wrong thing. Sex is not ever a reward for a man's good effort for you. I don't just remove that out of your brain right now, okay? As you feel yourself thinking that that's a proper reward for men when they do good for you, just literally let that escape your body. Let that escape your being. We're reprogramming you, relearning you, okay? What really is a reward for men is your words. See, there's a reason why I didn't want you to use your words as it relates to validating him in the beginning when you're talking about, how good he looks or whether you like him or not. But I do want you to use your powerful, powerful words for a very specific version of validating him. This version of validating him isn't just by telling him how amazing he is, awesome he is, or that you like him. This version of validating him through your words is really about you talking and discussing the action that he's taking for you in this relationship, i.e., we can also categorize this as the effort that he's making in the relationship in order to put his best foot forward so that he can continue to have access to you and be the best possible partner he can to you. This is what we're rewarding. And rewarding it with our words because men feel so good hearing how good of a job they're doing directly from you. Words can be a direct way to make someone feel something or have an understanding of what you're feeling or thinking. So when you communicate that he's doing such a good job, now it's good to be on the nose because now as you're on the nose about how good of a job he's doing, he doesn't have to be confused on whether or not you recognize the effort that he's putting in, whether or not you recognize the action that he's taking for you. This feedback loop is amazing for men. When they understand that you know and recognize that they're doing a good job and you speak on that and you talk about that, now he's like, oh, this is awesome. This is amazing. She sees my effort. She sees that I'm going all out. So this is the thing about that, right? Is with your words, you have to be strategic now because you want this to be impactful. So whenever you do reward him with your words of appreciation and telling him how good of a job he's doing, make sure it's impactful. Sit him down. The same way, this is the best way for me to describe it to you in terms of making it impactful. The same way, if you wanted to have a serious conversation with him, like a we need to talk conversation, because you feel like he's not been doing his job in this relationship and you're damn near on the brink of breakup, the same seriousness you would bring to that conversation, like sitting him down on the couch, no TV is on, no music in the background, no fancy lights, you're not at a dinner, you're not at a club, right? And you look him in the eyes and you tell him how you really feel. That's the same way I want you to deliver those words. It's the same environment also. I want you to deliver those words so that they can be impactful. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's say a guy has been really putting forth effort, like taking you out, even being creative with the ways that he takes you out. He surprised you throughout the past couple of weeks. He maybe took you out for a really nice birthday. I want you to sit him down. And you sit him down and you tell him, look, You hold his hands, right? Same seriousness that you would take to we're almost going to break up. I really appreciate all that you've done these past couple of weeks. And then you go through exactly what he's done. The way that you took me out on Monday, and then the way that you surprised me for my birthday when you got those flowers, and then you did a whole thing and you set this up and I had no idea, and literally go through every single detail of what actions he took and what effort he put forward. Trust me, even though it feels very juvenile to go through the entire week, literally detail by detail, and you're like, what's the point of this? All of that is hitting him like a wave of dopamine and emotion of, oh my God, she's appreciating me for doing all this work. Trust me, you might think, how is that making a guy fall in love with me? Remember how I talked about the intoxicating feelings that men will feel that will make you an intoxicating person to be around? This is another one of those feelings. When men can feel rewarded for their good effort and their good action, it's almost like a version of saying, you're such a good hunter. You're such a good man. Right? In general, you're such a good specimen, so to speak, right? But that feeling of validation, especially coming from a woman, is extra potent and extra powerful, right? And it becomes very intoxicating to be around someone, specifically around a woman that you care about, that will reward you and make you feel that way and instill in you that level of confidence, especially when he's actually doing that hard work. Point number 18 is about the inner circle, because this will be like make or break. You need to identify very quickly when you meet a man what the structure and the network of his life is like in terms of his connections. Because all of us have a version of this going on in our life, right? We have people that are kind of on the outskirts of our life in terms of people that we do interact with regularly, but we don't necessarily have a deep level of emotional closeness to, like a coworker, like a random guy you might see, a friend from high school, things like that, a casual friend. These people sit on the outskirts. It's not that we never see them or never speak to them, but they're not super important in our lives. And also their opinion isn't super important. Now, we'll also all have some people who are on the inner circle of our lives, meaning these people, not only do I see on a more regular basis, but I also have a much deeper emotional bond with these people. And also, and most importantly, these people and their opinion of me and my life and my eventual partner matters to me a lot. Because if these people don't like my partner, I'm going to have a problem, because my partner and these people are going to have to get along, right? They're going to be in very close proximity to each other throughout my life, because I love both of those people. I love my partner, but I also love these people. So if my partner and these people aren't getting along, it's going to be a very painful, tough time for everyone. You need to identify very quickly, or as time is going on in this relationship, who are these people in this man's life? Now, in the example that I drew here, I drew the mom, bestie, cousin, bro. But for each man, depending on the way he lives his life and depending on his relationship with his family and his friends and what he's been through, this will be different. For some people, he might have no family members in here and it might be all friends. For some people, maybe he has no siblings and it's all just cousins. For some people, maybe it's only his siblings, right? So you have to kind of gauge with each individual man, where is the inner circle, right? Or I should say, who is in the inner circle, right? What is his relationship to them? And when is the possible chances or times you might meet those people? Because what needs to happen is you need to be on the tippity top of your game when you meet these people in the inner circle, especially for a first impression. First impressions are everything. You want to make sure, I always talk to you guys about narratives. The narrative you paint of yourself when you give that first impression and even second impression of that inner circle is very important. Because what will happen here is when he introduces you to this inner circle, after you leave and he gets a chance to talk to one of these people in the inner circle, he'll ask that person in the inner circle how that person feels about you. Make no mistake about it. Don't let any man confuse you or lie to you. They might say, I don't care what my mom thinks. I don't care what my brother thinks. I'm going to do what I want. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what they want. Trust me, trust me, trust me. The people on his inner circle, he will care what they think. It's just impossible as a human being when you have a close emotional connection with someone and bond with someone and they speak badly about the person that you're falling in love with or the person that you're liking. It's like a tick now in your mind. It's like an itch you can't scratch because you're always thinking back to, damn, my mom did say she's bad news. Or you're thinking back to, damn, my bestie literally said this is not the type of guy for me. And it's just, even when you try to ignore it, it's just there ever so slight. It's probably happened to you before, right? And so this is why it's very important. Set the right precedent of yourself. I'm not saying be fake. I'm not saying be someone you're not. I'm saying go there with your A game. Don't present yourself in a way where you're like, damn, she or he is seeing me or a version of me that isn't accurate to the version of me that they would regularly see on a good day or on even most days, right? So you want to be making sure when you get the chance to meet these people, make sure it's scheduled and make sure you're aware of the fact that you're meeting these people. Try your best to not let him surprise you with meeting any one of these people, okay? Even in the scenario in which he tries to say, yeah, I'm just gonna drop something off right now. You can come inside and come meet my mom and meet my dad. And you're like wearing bum clothes. No. You're gonna say, I appreciate you wanting to introduce me to your mom and your dad, but I have a lot of respect for them. And I want to make sure that I'm, dressed nice and it's a proper, thing when I do meet them. Okay. Make no mistake about it. Even if you have to turn down meeting that person on the inner circle for a little bit in order to prepare yourself to meet that person, perfectly fine. It's better for you to be prepared so that you can be on your A game as opposed to being unprepared and just being whisked into the moment. And then now you don't present yourself the right way. And then when you leave, and he asks his inner circle about you, they're like, we don't really know how we feel about her. She might not be who we want you to be with. Point number 19 is to keep the incentive alive. Now, what incentive am I referring to? One of the easiest mistakes to make is to think to yourself, well, I like this guy on the very first date. And if I like this guy on the very first date, why am I bothering to take my time with anything when I already know I like him and I already know he likes me? This is a problem though. You always have to be thinking long term in a relationship. And you have to understand men, they're weird, and we don't actually know what we really want. We know what feels good in the moment. What I mean by that is men actually like the process of taking steps further and further along and getting rewarded for the steps and the work that they're doing over the course of time. You might be thinking, Tomisin, do they really? I'll give you a perfect example. Video games is literally this exactly, okay? Except instead of it being strangers and being a girlfriend, it's starting from level 0, working your way up and working at the game for hours and hours and hours. I don't understand how men play video games. And then getting to level 100 or 1000 or whatever level it is. And then eventually as you gain and level up in the game and you get more rewards, you'll get more things like skins, you'll get better perks, you'll get better weapons, all this stuff that makes it so that, you can see I've worked a lot of hours in this game. I've put a lot of work in. And so I'm rewarded for the work that I've put in with all of these different things that I now have as resources in the game. So men love that concept, right? They might not be able to break it down for you when it comes to relationships, but they understand how they respond to it because they play video games for hours on end and everyone starts at the same level 0. How come there aren't any popular video games where people start from level 1000 at the very beginning? Because that wouldn't be a very interesting video game, would it? Now, it's the same idea with you. Men might not understand that they really enjoy this concept and this idea of working their way up the ladder. But you have to make no mistake about it. There are no interesting girlfriends that they're your girlfriend from step number 1. It just doesn't work like that. So you also need to do the job of making sure when it comes to getting access to you, okay, that you are strategic about not allowing all of the access to you to come at this point right here when you guys are just getting to know each other. Because if you make the mistake of giving too much access too early, now you have nothing left to give as he's working his way up. Right? You have to make sure you kind of string along your incentives so there's always another level to go as he's working harder and harder and harder for you. So how do you kind of do that? Well, first of all, you're not going to give away things that should be up here. So what does up here look like? This is girlfriend treatment. Okay? So obviously, you're not going to be sleeping with the man on the very first night. You're literally going to have you're going to cut the amount of valuable things you have to give in half when you sleep with him on the very first night. But you're also, a key element, you're not going to start doing things like sleeping over at his house, right? That's up here, right? You're not going to start doing things like when you do sleep over at his house, you're washing his underwear and his boxers, doing his laundry. That's up here, right? You're not going to start doing things like, oh, I'll make you breakfast in the morning. That's up here, all right? You're not going to start being a live-in side girl thingy mabob, okay? That's also up here, moving in, none of that, all right? You don't want to start getting into the habit. I'm not saying you can't be nice to a man and you can't do things for a man, but you don't want to start getting into the habit of doing things that a girlfriend should be doing when you're still down here. Because then once you start getting up here and you're getting closer to trying to be a girlfriend, you're asking yourself, well, what will really be different, okay? You should never be in a position where you're thinking to yourself, if I'm his girlfriend now, and if I'm not his girlfriend, there's not really going to be much of a difference. Or if we take the next level in our relationship, I have nothing left to give, right? That means you've given a lot way too early. Pace yourself and pace the relationship. Don't let his or your anxiety make you go faster than you know you should be going. What do I mean by that? Sometimes you'll be in a situation where a man will communicate to you, I just don't feel like you like me enough. I don't feel like you're invested enough. I think I like you more than you like me. Don't worry about it. Don't let your anxiety boil up and start making you do things that you shouldn't be doing. Even if he expresses some anxiety that he doesn't feel like you like him as much as he likes you, who cares? I promise you, as men invest in you over the course of time, they will not be fazed by the fact that you are not showing them that you're head over heels in love with him. They might complain about it, but they're going to continue investing in you. Trust me. Now, very important, keep those incentives alive. Don't give everything away in the very first couple of days. Point number 20 is about being a fairy. See, the same way you have this fairy tale in your mind of a Prince Charming coming on a white horse and sweeping you up to a land far, far away, men have their own versions of fantasies. Except instead of their fantasy being that you are like Cinderella, their fantasy is more like you're a fairy. Because why? Fairies are very magical in the way that they'll interact with you. You'll just feel like you're in a world that you've never seen before. You're living in a dream when you're around that fairy, because the feeling that they'll put inside you and instill you with will be like something that you've never felt before, right? Fairies are sweet, right? Fairies are also very mysterious. Despite the fact that they are present at times, they're not present enough for you to ever get bored with them. And when they're not around, you start to think to yourself, what is the magical fairy doing? Being magical somewhere else? I don't know, right? Fairies also give off the impression that part of their magic is that they're not trying to be magical. Let me explain some psychology for men to you right now that might not make sense to you. But when you look like you're not trying, but you're still very seductive, sexy, and attractive, men eat it up. They love it. They love it. It's one of the, I don't want to go too dark here, but it's one of the reasons why a platform called OF, some creators are really successful on those type of platforms, because they understand the psychology of making a man feel like, oh, you're attracted to me for reasons that I don't really understand, because I'm not trying to be so attractive to you. I'm just trying to be myself. Men love the idea that they can't even control themselves around you, and you're not even trying to do anything to make them go crazy. It makes them go even more crazy. Very stupid. I'm just telling you how the game works, okay? So being elusive is also part of that, because remember how I talked about the contrast of making him feel interesting when you're with him? We also want to make him feel like you have other things to do when you're not with him. That way he has a chance to lean into you. And then all of that feeling, right, of the push and pull, of the you being elusive, of the you being like a magical fairy with fairy dust falling all over you whenever you're around, will make you so intoxicating, because it'll take him on a roller coaster of emotions. I'm not saying to be a toxic person, but you have to understand, even with you just simply showing him interest when you guys are on the date and understanding how to properly ask questions, make him feel validated through your body language and all the other stuff we discussed, and then strategically understanding how to already have abundance in your life and literally just live your life and not get too worried about whether or not he's having anxiety, and let his anxiety sit with him. All of these things will make you intoxicating because he's on a roller coaster of emotions. Not because you're trying to be a toxic person, but simply because when you're an attractive person who there is competition for and you're living your own life and you're very unbothered, for men, it forces them to lean in more and lean in more and lean in more to the point where they're saying, I need to have you. I don't know what you're doing to me. I don't know how you've done it, but I'm obsessed with you. I can't control myself and you need to be my girlfriend because I'm deeply in love with you.